Okay.
Am I on TV? Thought so. Well, good. Now they know I have pockets. So we'll start out with. That worked okay. The title of today's talk is Opinions. So it is my opinion that you shouldn't have opinions. Now the idea with opinions is to be very aware, each of us as meditators, even if you're only here for a short time and you never meditate again, is to be very aware of opinions, the difference between opinions and what are commonly called facts. Even facts are suspect. I like to say it this way: if all evidence is partial, you cannot have all the evidence about any given thing. It's too complicated, way too complicated for that. But what you can do is possibly have an interim understanding of something being true or untrue. But all we have to do as far as the opinions is to watch the outrageous activity that's happening in the political area. Just outrageous in all directions. Any position, if you want to take a position. It's if you haven't noticed, if you have opinions about this, which you probably do, notice how you back those up. A fact you don't really have to back up. It's like that's a floor. If somebody starts to disagree, if they disagree, you might argue. I'd be really curious at what they saw there. So it would heighten my curiosity about it rather than cause me to want to defend the floorness of a floor or the presence of a floor. So being kind of simple-minded. But there's something about this that could be investigated with awareness practice. This is not about thinking. I mean, thinking is involved, but this practice is about extending the awareness so we see more deeply, more fundamentally, down into whatever we're calling a fact, an opinion, or any positionality that you have on anything. Did I lose the page? So it says, this is from the Hsin-hsin Ming. This is Hsin-hsin, third patriarch of the particular lineage in which we're practicing in here, the Soto Zen tradition. So he's one of the, when we chanted all those big long list of boring names, at the end, who are these guys? He's one of them. He's the third patriarch after Bodhidharma. So, lived in China, and he says the great way is not difficult for those not attached to preferences. When neither love nor hate arises, all is clear and undisguised. Separate by the smallest amount, however, and you are as far from it as heaven is from earth. If you wish to know the truth, this is the important part. It's just my opinion, of course. If you wish to know the truth, then hold to no opinions for or against anything. To set up what you like against what you dislike is the disease of the mind. So I can't say it any better than that. So that's the end of the talk. No, I like to chat, so I can continue to go. So it's not so much that you need to stop doing that, but it seems to be necessary to actually observe through awareness practice the way in which you keep taking a position on things. So don't interfere with that. Don't try to be, shall we say, artificially or try to set up some kind of structure where you no longer do that, or control yourself based on more presumptions, more preconceptions. What seems to be necessary is because of the nature of the mind, because of the nature of the world, since everything, as the Buddha discovered and pointed out to us 2,500 years ago, everything is dependently arisen. It's not easy to understand intellectually or intuitively. But everything that you see as a thing, whether it's you, yourself, your body, your car, your mom, your dad, their mom or their dad, this very temple monastery, everything that's going on here is dependent on all kinds of other things that are rising for its apparent singularity or identity or factualness. So this isn't something that we necessarily have to believe or disbelieve, but it is something that will help you if you're interested in training your mind, which probably have some interest, you wouldn't be here. But if you're interested in seeing the truth behind, beyond, and before the opinions even start to form, then it seems to be necessary to exercise the seeing, witnessing part of the mind, not the thinking part. The thinking part of the mind is going, is it this or is it that? Should I do this? Should I do that? What proof do I have of thus? What do I have of proof do I have of whatever he is saying, she is saying, they are saying? It's, as I mentioned, I'm not going to go into politics particularly other than to use that. It's such a glaring example for the next, 9 days or so of this intense polarity where there actually is just raging assumptions about who's right and who's wrong from really intelligent people. That's what's so astonishing about it. People are really, really intelligent. We know some of these people. We are some of these people. And yet we grasp at this and reject that. Based on what? Based on conclusions. And what is a conclusion? It's an opinion that has, it is an opinion that has, what's the next word I'm going to say? Spit it out. Come on. Huh? What?
Found.
Okay.
Position. Position.
Position?
Proof.
Stopped investigating.
Found its home.
Okay.
Opinionator.
It's, a little machine called an opinionator. Chug, chug, chug. So you'll notice that with some people who are in that kind of a scene of trying to convince other people of other things and get everybody on board, no matter what it is, even if they're what they're trying to do is completely noble and ideal and self-sacrificing, still it gets very suspicious when somebody's trying to get you to open your mouth wide so they can ram it down your throat. I don't care how wonderful their motivation is. Their justification, their validation, their analysis. All evidence is partial. What's true today, false tomorrow. It's just the nature of samsara, or relative truth. Relative truth is always based on its opposite. If you have anything that you call relatively true, there's something else that's saying just the opposite of that. This is what the mind does. This is what the ego does. It gets its very validation through grasping at some things and rejecting others. It's called passion and aggression. Passion and aggression. Passion, aggression, and then the one that's the most difficult to see just by the very nature of it is ignorance. Just absolutely turning away from, ignoring, or distracting yourself into something else. Let's play with mice for a while. Hell with the Dharma talk. Why does that still have a price tag on it? Oh my gosh, you guys are still here. Distraction. That's that simple. It's that simple. That's why, and the way you can discover what that is. You don't have to be a Buddhist. You don't have to believe in Buddhism. You don't have to even believe what I say. In fact, and in fiction, I say, don't believe what I say. Don't disbelieve it either. Don't do anything with it. If you're here, probably should listen. Train your mind, find out wherever you go in the next 5 years, 3 years, 8.5 years. Try to find a way to sit down, hold very still, and watch what your mind does. Watch the way you keep getting artificial security from opinions. It's artificial. It will come apart. Don't do it. You don't need it. You don't need an opinion. If somebody says anything to me, say, well, what is your opinion on this? I really don't have opinions. I have ideas about things, and I may discuss that, or I may respond in such a way that may sound like an opinion, but I don't really have many. A couple. Is it an opinion when you're hungry? That's a fact. By golly.
You're always hungry.
I'm always hungry. Too much insulin, or not enough. So questions about what I've said so far? I can talk more. I can talk for hours, but yes, Jim.
Can you talk on why we seem to have a need to form opinions?
Yeah, we need to have some kind of ego, or self-centeredness, or narcissism, or that which we point to as me, I. That is not solid. It's not real. It is unreal. If you discover it, freedom. If you discover that who you thought you were is not substantial, no longer real, you're free from everything. You're free from the whole contraption. You're free to be here and not be attached or detached from anything. More?
Well, we're called upon to act
Yes.
in our lives.
Who's calling you?
Situations seem to demand action.
Do I ever demand any actions?
Yeah, oh yeah. Sit more.
But it's not a demand, is it?
It's kind of an imperative sentence.
Sit more. Sit more. That's a place in Colorado, isn't it? A city? Sit more, Colorado.
I don't know. It just seems like in the course of our everyday lives,
I know what
we
you're saying.
act and.
Yes, and I'm harassing you. But we are called upon it. But something that we can do with that is when that happens, is don't disagree or don't say I'm not going to do that. But actually look at the whole, see as much as you can, look as deeply as you can into any one of those given things where we're called upon to do thus and so, or we're called upon. We feel like we're put upon. I need to decide. And this sometimes I've given whole talks on the fork in the road situation, which is a complete. You can buy into that your whole life and be just completely disturb yourself with forks in the road. Should I do this or should I do that? Don't do that to yourself. If you say should I do this or should I do that, you don't have enough information. Because if you really are clear on what's happening, you'll know what to do. You'll know exactly what to do, and it'll be choiceless. So when we're called upon to do something, like as you say. I would really look at who's calling and what the motivation is there. Who's calling, and is it society itself? Like right now it says, if you don't vote, you're a bad person or something. You're causing, it's just a lot of opinions all getting together so that people can manipulate other people. More?
Well, they seem to be based on value. We at least trick ourselves into thinking they're based on our values and senses of right and wrong, and that just goes so closely to who we think of ourselves as the core of ourselves.
That's why it's so important to stretch the awareness. Because as I often say, the thinking process is muscle bound. We think constantly about everything. Anything we're doing, we're thinking, I shouldn't have done, I should do that, but I shouldn't do this. Or he shouldn't, they shouldn't. It's just a constant churning of the thinking process, mental chatter going on. When you sit still, hold your body very still and practice meditation, as is taught here and taught other places, you begin to see very clearly how vividly that chatter comes up as just being, it's annoying. Quite often we want to just stop that. Pretty hard to stop it. Because of the way it's structured. But it is possible to bring a lot of awareness to that, so you see more and more and more how probably shouldn't believe your thoughts. All thoughts are untrue. They're only half truths. So, sit more. Davison.
For people who are really interested in social improvement, social
Yes.
activism,
Yes,
you know, there are a lot of people whose lives are literally being destroyed by social systems.
I've noticed. Yeah.
How would you tell them that this is not an inherently selfish practice?
What isn't?
To be focused on not forming an opinion maybe about their
I
suffering.
would not argue with them at all. I'd just look them in the eye. Listen to them. Cock your head slightly. Yes. I mean, you know, I'm being silly, but I'm saying listen to them, take into what they're saying, and ask more about it. Ask more about what they're doing, what they would recommend. You don't have to necessarily do it, but take an interest in everyone, what people are saying. Meet people where they're at if you can. And that's difficult because if you don't know where you're at, if you have doubts about your own mind, about what's going on in your mind, very difficult to meet anyone else because we're always self-centered. We want to take care of number one first. And one of the ways we do that when somebody confronts us with something, if we're unsure about who we are, we'll defend ourselves. You don't have to defend the truth. You don't have to defend what is fundamentally true. And what is fundamentally true, there's no way you can know that because who you actually are fundamentally is not separate from the truth. But that's for you to discover. I mean, you have to discover it yourself. So coming back to your question about if in society, you know, our everyday living, we're confronted with or coming, you know, our friends are saying you should vote for him, or you should do this, or you should march here, or you should protest here, you should consider all of it. You should listen, always observe what's going on. I watch the news every single day. Sometimes people come to me and say, "Why do you do that?" I can't stand to watch the news. And I said, "Well, this is your world. You should be in your world. We're not living on the top of a mountain. Might be a monastery, but we also it's not a monastery like it was hundreds of years ago, where we're shutting off from society. We're actually, I recommend that people stay in touch, watch CNN, watch free speech TV, watch whatever you can so you know what's going on. And also realize that there's no way that any of those media can really tell you what's actually happening. You would have to go there, and even if you went there, you'd probably be confused and got involved. Or as soon as you start participating in something, then you get more myopic about what you're actually doing, and you miss everything else that's happening. Very difficult area. And if you have difficulty with people telling you that, send them to me. Say, I know a guy who'd love to talk to you about that. And I don't even charge any money. Free. Pay at the door. That's supposed to be funny. It's free, you pay at the door. Not funny. Yes.
So, talking about news media, if my dad wants to share what's going on in the world, he would suggest watching Fox News.
Of course you would.
And you've suggested to students watch Democracy Now!
That or free speech
Or
TV
free
or the
speech.
news. If somebody says, I have a good friend who went to high school with who watches MSNBC. I just listen to what he has to say.
So when you
That's what he
make
wants.
the
That's what he would.
suggestion, or you
Yes.
find your news source, or watch daily Democracy Now!
Yeah. Be careful now.
What is not an opinion about that validity versus you're watching Fox News every day? Is that
I-
not an opinion that
With what?
that Democracy Now! Is a
Are
good?
you accusing me of having opinions?
No, I'm asking. I'm not accusing. I'm asking. What is not an opinion about that?
I didn't say it was an opinion. But it's not about stopping opinions. This is something that's very easy to miss. I'm giving a talk on opinions. I'm just saying bring a lot of awareness to the opinion. Some opinions you can't help but have. I mean, it is my opinion that if a giant orangutan walks in a room, it's my opinion that we should run.
So how can you work?
But maybe not. Maybe somebody else, it's their friend coming in that would really want to bring them to meditation. I'm getting crazy here, but I'm saying it's not about not having an opinion. It's about which you know very well. I say watch the news and then watch how your mind keeps adding and subtracting from it. When the various people who are running for office, as soon as they get on, we immediately start having opinions about that. And then if we talk to our friends about what they think about what we're thinking, then they tell us what they think about what we're thinking about what they're thinking about what those people were thinking we were thinking. It's difficult. So I say, keep looking at it, keep reflecting on it. Don't come to a conclusion. When you come, as soon as this is what a conclusion looks like, as far as awareness, as far as intelligence, as soon as you have a conclusion or an opinion about anything, unless you're aware of the opinion, this is how you look. All investigation ceases. Don't do it. You don't have to do that. You don't have to have an opinion. You don't have to get rid of an opinion. You don't have to do anything with it. You don't have to do anything with it other than aware. Go ahead.
So how can you work with opinions without being attached?
You can't help but be attached. The awareness practice is not about not being attached. I'm so unattached. I used to be attached, but I meditate a lot. And I'm so unattached, I just can't understand myself. I'm so unattached.
Okay, then how
And other people notice how unattached I am, and they get very jealous. But I say, just be like me, be unattached. It's not about being unattached. It's about having your awareness is so powerful that it will not support a self. It will not support an ego. It will not support a position. So therefore, any positions you take are not particularly adding to the confusion because of the awareness. Go ahead.
So I think it was stated in one way, cease to cherish opinions. So how can you work with opinions without cherishing?
You have to see that they are opinions. You have to see that you have a position on things. And also, if you're really clear on your position on things, you'll notice it starts to shift, because nothing stays the same. Nothing lasts. So if you're really clear that you have an opinion that a particular person or a particular situation is wrong or off, if you continue to watch that, you'll notice it'll shift. It might get stronger, but then other information will come in that might make it go a little bit lower, then it might come back up. It's difficult, it's confusing. But if you're looking for, if your idea of clarity is to not have any positions, then this is just further delusion. Because the Buddha saw delusion. He didn't run away from it. He didn't escape from the world. More.
So let's just say with the candidates, Hillary, Trump, and then there's
I wasn't going to
Jill
say their
Stein
name.
off the corner,
Yeah.
and that maybe you have an opinion that would be something to hear,
Yeah.
and that your opinions condition what you orient yourself to look towards, and so
So that's awareness. So you're just describing that you're very aware of it. So is that a problem for you, to be aware of all that?
I don't know.
Just allow things to come and go. You may do this, you may do that, you may do neither. But as far as right and wrong, or what you should do, or what other people think about what you're thinking, or think about what you're thinking about what they're thinking, and all that, it's a lion's den, or in your case, a tiger's den. It's just difficult to navigate in that area because it's so fraught with positionality and people who are very, very intelligent. Especially when you meet somebody that's, if I meet somebody that is smarter than I am, which is quite often, that doesn't mean they're not confused. They just, all that intelligence goes in the service of their continuing confusion, instead of service of their awakening and their clarity and their sanity. Sanity means no more warfare. If you're having warfare to the degree that you're fighting with anything, to that degree, you're insane. You can quote me. What's my name? To that degree, you're off. You're off. I mean, you could actually be present for everything that happens. Don't miss your life. Don't stroll off into some kind of ideas or anything. And I'm not saying you shouldn't join the Democratic Party or join anything. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do anything. I'm saying bring as much awareness to it as you can. And whereas that awareness may take one person to Africa to work with people, to help save people or feed people, another person whose awareness is really strong might stay here in this temple and spend most of their time in a meditation retreat. Right or wrong is besides. Don't look for right and wrong. That's a way overrated. Yes, sir.
People give their opinions a lot, especially like now with all this
Yes.
stuff that's going on politically. It's pretty easy for me to just go, you don't know stuff. But really, aren't I just making the same mistake?
Well, you're doing some of this, but it's not about stopping this. It's about seeing that seeing the way in which you shut down, seeing the way in which you grasp at one thing, see the way in which certain ways of talking kind of seduce you into thinking this might be the right way. Then certain other things might completely turn you off. It's very interesting. It's really quite circus-like to really watch the way people go this way and go that way and listen to their rationale behind it. It's astonishing that people can be so, how can I say this, that is descriptive but not judgmental? How about nuts? Let's try that. I mean, just, really, really, as sometimes is said, we hear in the media sometimes when someone is voting against their own interest, and they're so enamored of some kind of propaganda that they'll actually be willing to support something that fundamentally is undermining their whole life, their freedom, the whole respect for other people, and what's happening with them is just completely goes by the wayside. And sometimes that situation is very progressive, you could say. It's not always a conservative approach. Yes.
Sandru in New York.
I've been waiting to hear from you, Sandru.
He says he's reading Dogen's chapter 10, Shoaku Makusa, or Not Doing Wrongs.
Mm-hmm.
And there aren't, quote, values out there being good or bad, are there? Just what we do right now.
If I understand what you're asking about, I would say that it's the good and bad is a low level of looking at something. It's not that there isn't some. Of course, there's someone comes and hurts someone else. That's bad, as they say on South Park. That's bad. But also there's so many things in play. There's so many things that are operating and moving this way and that. So it seems to be more workable overall for one's own well-being and for the well-being of others. Is to enter into any kind of polarity situation with as much awareness as possible and as much discipline. When I say discipline, the kind of discipline I'm talking about is not following orders. It is the kind of discipline I'm talking about is holding your seat and watching what moves, because that will tell you, the world will tell you, your environment, the people in your environment will tell you and show you what you need to do. It won't be maybe not that information or that support or that help may not come in a conventional way. It may come in a way that you might not get any good press for. People may not be applauding you. Difficult to be genuine and be willing to risk, yes?
When we're confronted with others' harmful opinions, like maybe an opinion that personally harms us
Yes.
or brings us danger,
Yeah.
how should we approach that? Because it's easy to just close off and not want to listen.
Yeah.
But how would we approach that?
Well, I think, and that I can respond, which I'll do the best I can, because that's what I'm up here to do. But I would also say that the best thing you can do so you'll know, because no matter what I tell you, it's not going to work, because it's just a protocol that is completely divorced from what's actually happening. It's like, you can't get nourishment from a recipe. You have to actually cook something. In order to cook something, you have to know what the ingredients are, and to know what the ingredients are, you have to be there in front of that person, listening to that person, watch that person's body language. Don't analyze it. Just like I'm watching you, how you hold your cup, I'm watching your thumb move, I'm watching your head nod as you do this, you actually tell me who I'm talking to. You give me an idea how receptive you are. I know that what I'm saying is, I can tell by watching you, not analyzing, but watching you if you're actually understanding or hearing what I'm saying, or just kind of agreeing. Follow me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say when the best thing you can do, the best advice I can give to anyone is bring as much awareness into that situation as you can so that you can see fundamentally, not by concepts, but you can kind of sense that the reason that person is maybe having these opinions that are so destructive is because they're suffering so much. Instead of, because the other way of handling it is we walk away and think of that idiot. And then we find somebody else to share our opinion of them with, and then they back, yeah, I know, I met that guy. Sure. Yeah, he had to shoot himself. We actually talk, that kind of language goes on amongst really intelligent people. And so I would say ethically, you could say, your position there as being a sane, responsible, in other words, the ability to respond is what a responsibility is, not blame. To be there, just to be completely present, hear what they're saying, watch their eyes, watch their body, be aware of gravity yourself, stay in your 5 sense fields and your mind. Don't argue with anything, don't argue with them, and it will start to show up that the reason they're functioning that way is they're so either frightened or miserable. And this doesn't mean you would come back and say, oh, poor thing, it'll be okay. You wouldn't do that. That would be disrespectful because they don't even know they're afraid. Because it does work to cover that up temporarily with opinions. Well, I know what they should do. Or I know this is what should happen, or that's what should happen. This is what this looks like to someone who has a strong priority of awareness and not thinking opinions and so on. More?
That answered the
Yeah. So just stay with what's happening, and have a willingness. What is your name again?
Sarah.
So Sarah, just have a willingness to not know what to do.
Yeah.
Don't say yeah too quick. Don't shake your head too quick. I like that face. That was a good face. Hsin-hsin.
Are our emotions extra or opinions?
It's not dependable that you could say use that as a conceptual model for what's happening, but I would say that some of that tends to happen. But again, it's just about bringing awareness to it. What's happening with you emotionally you may not have a backstory to anything. We've all had, probably, not accusing you of anything, but we probably all had really intense emotions with no story behind it to know why it was even there. And sometimes if the emotion is really negative and persistent, we can't stand to not name it. So what do? We name it depression. And as soon as you name anything, and I would love to respond to questions about this, as soon as you name anything, this is what happens. You stop investigating it. So if you can, say, for instance, like negative feelings that we want to give it a name, I don't say get rid of the name, but then my way of talking to people about this is I say just set the name aside and try to look underneath that or deeply into that and see what is happening there. What questions are better than why? If something happens and you say why, you'll leave it to find a cause. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that it's circular. Because when you find a cause for this, then you'll say, why is that happening? You find a cause for that. The next thing you know, you've traveled to South Africa. And so, just observe. Seems to be helpful. Don't add. Yes?
Is our experience of positive and negative just manifest ego?
To some extent, yeah. It's just, it depends on how it works. I mean, that's kind of a simplistic way of saying it. Not wrong, but I think as much awareness as we can bring to that, we might find positive and negative things happening, because that's the way the world, relatively speaking, that's the way it's set up and it's wired. But who we are fundamentally is not just this. It's why we have a spiritual path to transcend this world. Yes?
Oh, we have 4 questions that have come in.
Okay.
First one from Shane out in Santa Ana, California.
Yes.
He asks, what about opinions perpetuates suffering?
What about it?
What is it that perpetuates suffering?
Well, it's a lot, opinion. What happens is you lock down, and so you stop investigating. So that might give you 15 minutes or 15 years of space. Have an opinion. We even sit in the coffee shop and say, "Well, what's your opinion?" As if there was some kind of validity to having opinions. But society perpetuates that. We see it on talking heads, on news things all the time. So it's just shutting down on the very thing that's causing the suffering, which is the three poisons: passion, aggression, ignorance. It's all over the place. More.
One from Gyokudo up in Minnesota.
Gyokudo. Yes.
She asks, does opinion indicate where we have an underlying belief?
Yeah, it's not maybe not even underlying. We have an opinion about something, then there's going to be lots of beliefs all stuck to that in some ways. And everyone is different. A belief is something is just unexamined, something you take for granted that's unexamined. And sometimes we actually use beliefs as they're so powerful that we actually believe our beliefs, which is, I know that probably doesn't help, but we do. We actually think they're facts. And we can't get other people should believe this. That would be like saying, people ask me sometimes, and ask other those of you who are monks, well, what do Buddhists believe? And we have to say, well, not a lot. There's not much going on there. There are things we think are probably happening or could be happening or may come and go, but as far as a belief, well, don't you believe in reincarnation? Not really. But I don't disbelieve it either. So picking and choosing, you don't have to believe or disbelieve anything to be a valid, living, sane human being. You can live without reference points. Difficult to teach without a reference point. Here's my reference point. People look at this and think I know stuff. I do. Stick around. Yes.
Jigme up in Traverse City.
Yes, Jigme.
He asks, how do opinions show up in the seventh consciousness?
They are the seventh consciousness. So I don't want to go into all the consciousnesses, but there are, and talk about all that, but that's just a part of the awareness or part of the consciousness that is in the Yogacara tradition is called the ego mind or klesha mind. That's the part that actually is a paranoid about, and also really sensitive to what other people think about what we're thinking and being judged and so on. And that doesn't have to be there. That can open up through meditation practice. That will get weaker and weaker. That's the good news. The bad news, you could say, is your ego will be more and more threatened. So your ego may even start lobbying you and sending you propaganda like, oh, this meditation, you don't want to do this. You're just going to turn into a vegetable. You might. Asparagus House was once a person. Now it's a house. Yes.
Another question from Sandru out in New York. He asks, does some confusion arise because I think there's a right way to behave, some script?
Oh, exactly. Yeah, we think there's a right and a wrong. We hammer ourselves with it, and sort of, as they say, we have the whole idea of guilt and shame and all of that stuff. It's just a big kettle of whatever, and to try to sort it out is it's so complicated. It's like trying to count the glomeruli in the kidney. I know you've tried that. There's like 1 million.
More.
Yeah, more than that. You've counted them. So it's trying to do something really, really complicated. Is don't do that. All you have to do is be here, be present, be in this room, be wherever you're at. Just be there. If you're at Starbucks, be at Starbucks. There's nothing extra. Wherever you're at, that's that's probably as close as you're going to get to the fundamental truth of everything, is to be in the present moment, as the fancy way of saying it. Be here now and all that stuff. But there isn't any now, actually. Yes.
Talking about belief,
Okay.
you say sit more, and we offer this practice.
Yes.
Is it a belief that this may be helpful?
Maybe yours, not mine.
So what's not a belief about the practice of meditation?
What's not a belief about it?
Yeah.
I'm
Don't we
not
have
sure
to
what your
believe it will be helpful to actually
Yeah, you have to be
go?
inspired by it, yeah. Inspiration is not exactly belief.
How would you distinguish inspiration and belief?
Belief is something you settle on, and it kind of locks up, and it's like a little thing with doors on it. You look at it, and then you close all the doors. got that settled. That's what I believe. I'm a Christian, I'm a Buddhist, I'm a Muslim, I'm an atheist, I'm an agnostic, I'm a blah, 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 blah. I'm a circus clown. Well, it's locked down, you no longer investigate, but inspiration is constantly fluctuating, and sometimes I say to people, they're having trouble with their meditation, I say, return to your original inspiration to even do this in the first place. I also have people that, and this is something that actually helped me, and I've been married many times, had a lot of difficulty with that. But in order to try to understand it, I listened to my teacher, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, return to my original inspiration. That seems to be a really good recommendation for anyone to do, because it's not taking your intelligence away from you and just giving you some kind of a method or protocol, but only you really know what that inspiration is. So return to that. What is that original inspiration? There's a whole lot of fuel there to keep going, because it's a rugged climb. For some people, your karma can be such, the causes and conditions. You've been here millions of times. There's even countless glomeruli again. And here we are again. We're back at it. Here we are in this lifetime with this mother, this father, this brother and sister. We're back trying to understand what's really valuable. What really should I do? Who am I? What is going on with me? What is valid? Who should I listen to? Who shouldn't? Who makes sense? Who doesn't make any sense? And the people that make sense, is that the truth? The people that don't make any sense, maybe I should listen to them more. In other words, what am I saying? Investigate, investigate. Don't believe anybody. Don't believe me. When you leave here, forget everything I said. Yes, sir.
How do we investigate without naming and without meddling?
You do it by training the mind. The way we do it here is sit down, hold still, hold this position, and here, if you lived at this monastery, you would be required to sit 6.5 hours a day. You're going to spend a week here, so you've been here many times. So you know that you're going to get up at 7, meditate from 7 till 9, chant the sutras, then at 2:30, and then you're going to do book study at noon, and then at 2:30 in the afternoon, sit until 5 o'clock, and then eat, have supper, and then at 7 o'clock, sit again till 9 o'clock at night, day after day after day after day, yes.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned originally that came up in the context of depression. As soon as you name it, you've shut off investigation.
Somewhat.
And I can see that.
Okay.
Okay. But we're trained kind of to investigate by naming. I mean, naming is that's language.
Yeah, so
how do you investigate without language?
Just be aware that it's naming. You don't have to stop the naming. You don't even have to stop belief. I'm not asking you to do that. I'm just saying bring awareness to it. And when I say don't believe your thoughts, I know you can't help but believe your thoughts. But I'm putting a little bit of doubt in there as far as that belief, that grasping, that automatic, well, if I'm thinking it must be true. People do that. They have thoughts. Actually your thoughts aren't yours. They don't belong to anybody. No one's thoughts have thoughts. People don't have thoughts. That's just my opinion. So I would say, along the lines of what you're asking about, I would say use the naming, but like it talks about, and we've studied in the Lankavatara Sutra, it talks about the 5 dharmas that describe the way things work. As things arise, relative truth, something happens, we name it, it's a hand, and then we project ideas about it. It's my hand. I have 5 fingers, or no, 4 fingers and a thumb, or no. Is this a finger? Do we still call this a finger? No, it's not a finger. Yeah, it's confusing after a while, because then it starts to spread out in all kinds of little stupid stories. Go ahead.
Well, I can see when I name something that I'm creating, I'm reinforcing an identity that I know is not real.
Okay.
And I can experience what I'm experiencing in the body and such, but it's just really hard to get past.
Don't have to get past.
Yeah,
Don't have to agree too quick.
Yeah, well, I'm not agreeing. Yeah, okay.
Not agreeing. So I'm saying, get past. Notice what happens. It's hard to get past. All of a sudden, you're on some kind of a structure where you have to get past. That actually shuts things down.
Well, if I don't want to be naming, just don't try to get past the naming, just see that
Awareness.
I'm naming and see how that feels, perhaps, to name.
Lots of sky. So you can't see the clouds clearly unless you really, if you're a sky, then you know all about clouds. If you're a cloud, then you're very self-centered. You think you're the only cloud around. It's your cloud, and I'm this, I have this, I'm fluffy on this side, to this other side, I'm kind of stretched out because of the wind. And of course, rain, you know. The cloud above me is raining on me, you know, so I'm not ready to rain. So, you know, it's just goes, it's a silly image, but it's that kind of thing. And I'm saying, back up a quarter of an inch when you're sitting on the cushion, look at the awareness, look at what rises in the awareness, and see if you can find what it is that's aware. See if you can sit and see. We know we're aware of thoughts. Take that which is aware of the thoughts, turn it around. See if you can find anybody. See if you can find an awareness-ater. Probably not. I mean, if you do, come and see me. I want to talk about it.
That's what's so frustrating about it, is there isn't anything there.
But
It's real, but it feels.
But the frustration is how it feels to walk the path. That's why it's so. You just keep going. You just if you let the frustration turn you around or turn you off into an alleyway where they're selling dessert, you know, and you say, hey, you know, don't work so hard. You know, come over here and do this. You know, here's a rest area. Here's a nice couch, TV. See,
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it does sound good. Yeah. Don't I need to take a break? I remember a long time ago, His Holiness the 16th Karmapa was standing somewhere, and I think there was a Coke bottle sitting on a table somewhere, and the reporter says, His Holiness Karmapa, the 16th Karmapa, this is in the 70s, is here taking a break. And I remember my teacher at the time, Trungpa Rinpoche, said, His Holiness doesn't take breaks. There's nothing but His Holiness just doesn't take breaks, so that he was just pointing out how silly that was, the Western idea of Tibetan Lama taking a break from anything. So the rough part or the challenging part, the downside of that is I know that's hard, but when I hear you say that's telling me you're probably experiencing your own personal path, you're experiencing your own personal texture or abrasiveness to your consciousness and how it feels for you to go through whatever personal forest you have to explore. Because everybody is, if you're looking in the right direction, it's probably going to look like a woods that's very dark. It's not going to look inviting. If it looks inviting, little red flag should go up. Dogs should bark. Little tiny yip 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 dogs. Further questions? Any more online? Okay, we can close then. Thank you so much.
Thank you. In the back of our chant books is the dedication of merit. Please join in. And just reminding everybody that we do have our donation boxes in the hallway, and you're welcome to donate online as well.
May this penetrate into all places so that we and every sentient being together can realize the Buddha's way. Jiho san shi hu shi son mu sa moko sa moko directions, the three worlds, all Buddhas, all venerable ones, Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, the great Prajna Paramita. To the Buddhas of the 10 directions and the 3 times, including the 5 wisdom Buddhas, Vairochana, Akshobhya, Amitabha, Ratnasambhava, Amoghasiddhi, and their consorts, please hear us. To the Bodhisattvas, Samantabhadra, Vajrapani, Avalokiteshvara, Ratnapani, Vishvapani, and the protector Jizo Bodhisattva, please hear us. We ask you, supplicate you all to bring down the light to heal and protect all the Sangha, the students and practitioners, the family and friends of Sokukoji Buddhist Temple Monastery, its buildings, houses, rooms, and everything in the gardens and adjoining grounds from any negative energy or the dark forces. Bring down light and protect us now.